Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Next Business Bestie. My name is Jen Wayborn-Hart, and I am your host. This week, I am joined by my friend Chelle Johnson. Hi, Chelle.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Excited to jam with you today.
I know we haven't seen each other in person in forever, but I at
I
least get to see you
know.
on Zoom
We
once in a
traveled
while.
together to Spain a few years ago and have
We're
been working
definitely going to talk
together.
about that.
Yeah, we're going to definitely talk about that. We've been working together for a few years. So thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, so Chelle and I met very briefly at the Extraordinary Women Ignite conference that takes place in Golden, Colorado every year. I think it was 2021 because that was the event where I decided that I wanted to do something with my business. As funny as that sounds, I that event was actually life altering for me. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but you walked up to me after the last day and you said something like, "I need your info." And I was like, I was like, somebody wants my business card? Like, what is happening? And I met Yvette there very briefly too, similar interaction. But I think it was it was a few months later that we started working together.
Yeah.
But I think the coolest part of our story is that we walked the Camino together in 2022.
And you
That's
put
gotta be
up with me, and I put up with you on days where our feet and our dogs were just barking and we were grouchy and where you didn't want to speak Spanish and had to rely on me too much.
Yeah, I actually just texted Yvette recently. Yvette will be on the podcast. She works with Chelle and me and is a very good friend of ours. I text her about the night that you weren't feeling great after we were walking, so she and I went to go get us sandwiches. I don't know if you remember this.
I
And they did not
do.
under and we ended up with sandwiches that were like as long as our arms, I think, because they didn't understand what we wanted. And I was just laughing looking at the pictures. They came up in
It's
my
totally
Google
grouchy, and
memories.
I'm like, you guys just have to figure it out because I'm not going to be
Yeah.
translator to everyone. Anyway, it was super fun. We went from Porto to Santiago de Compostela, and it was pretty cool.
It was the one of the biggest lessons, an ongoing lesson. That was really the start of me changing the trajectory of my life. I've shedded a lot of things that didn't serve me, and I think the Camino was the start of that. It was one of those, if I could survive those horrendous days where my feet were blistered from toe to heel,
God, do you
and I'll
remember
never
that?
ugh. I remember the part where we went up and up and up, and it was hard to breathe, and then it was like straight back down, and it was rocks, and it hurt our feet, and I just have these moments that I'm like, I did that, I can do this. So I don't know if you even know this, but my last day at the mortgage office was Friday. So I am completely on my own now. And that was the big
That
thing I
is,
wanted to get rid of from the Camino.
congratulations. You're shedding things, you're adding things, you're 10xing. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. But we're getting so far ahead of ourselves. Will you tell the audience what it is that you do, Chelle?
I am an executive recruiter and coach. I am the CEO of Best You Talent Advisors. We've been in business for 5 years. I have coached over 150 high achieving professionals to get out of their own way and stop their limiting beliefs and reach further and farther in life. And I also in 2021 started a nonprofit called Colorado Career Connectors. We've helped over 5,000 people to have everything from LinkedIn, light up your LinkedIn, to learn about your culture talk, to know about your style, to having recruiters come in and talk about the latest and greatest behind the recruitment curtain. And I also do recruitment from a fractional and retained perspective.
Talk about fractional recruitment. Um, no, that was great. Fractional recruitment has become a buzzword, and I know a lot about it because of working with you on your social media. But I think there's a lot of people that don't understand what fractional recruitment is. So can you explain what that term
Yeah, the
means?
fractional model really became popular with CFOs because accountants or bookkeepers would go in on a part-time basis. Fractional recruitment is just that. My team or I work with businesses. We are embedded for a certain project or a certain number of hours, and we have helped 10 companies in the past 3 years.
That's awesome. Very cool. What are the benefits to these organizations for using fractional recruitment and fractional talent?
Yeah, with Best You Talent Advisors, the advantages of that are my team and I are talent management superstars, basically. Um, they don't have these companies that are small and medium sized don't have to hire an actual full-time person, which saves them on cost avoidance. They get very strong, experienced, quality, white glove, customer oriented recruiters that know what they're doing. I don't hire baby recruiters. And we bring top talent for a fraction of the cost.
Very cool. How did you start in all of this? 5 years ago, what made you say, I want to do this on my own? I want to pick to be an entrepreneur. What was the spark that caused it all?
2019, I knew that my New Year's resolution was like, I have to do something different because I was so burnt out. It was more corporate betrayal than burnout. And I had gone really high up the corporate ladder. I was the director at Comcast of talent acquisition. And I just knew in my heart that I wanted to do something different. So I happily took a very nice severance package that they offered, and I started as an executive coach doing resumes and career advancement, and had a lot of luck along the way, had a lot of faith over fear, and starting investing in me. I've got a business coach. I just put myself out there. I got accepted to Denver Scale Up Network in 2021 and just started meeting people. And then in 2021, I started the recruitment consulting part of my business and had some, success that way. I was interviewed and accepted by Forbes.jobs as one of the top 5% executive recruiters in the country. And there's been a lot of rejection as well as success. So I think it's just overcoming some of that fear and moving forward with what feels right. And there's a book by Dan Sullivan. He wrote 10X is easier than 2X. He also wrote a book called The Who versus the How. And I found a bunch of who's like you that know what they're doing. And I get the hell out of your way and let you do what's awesome for my business and so that I can focus on my business. That's a long-winded answer to your question, but I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
I think you hit on something really interesting, and it's going to feel like I'm bragging because you said it about me, but the fact that you've put people in positions to do the things that they're really good at. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to do that. It's something a lot of us struggle with a lot of the times. But one of the reasons I love working with you is if we give you advice, if Yvette gives you advice or I give you advice, you trust us, you trust the process, you trust that what we're saying is in our zone of genius. And I think, again, as entrepreneurs, that can be really hard to kind of loosen the reins a little bit and let somebody else take control. I happen to know you went through a rebrand. Has it been 2 years since BYCA became BYTA?
Yeah, we did. We were Best You Career Advantage and we became Best You Talent Advisors. And that just feels so much more true to who we are. We are top level talent advisors as recruiters, as true talent focused on performance management, but also on what people want to do with their talent and their skills in their career so that they can be their best, which is why my company is called Best You.
Of that. Let's talk about your executive coaching. I know that you do some executive coaching, and um, what's that branch of your business look like? Who do you like to work with? What's the process look like?
Sure. I love to work with high achieving leaders, mostly senior managers and above. That process is all about helping people to decrease limiting beliefs, to get rid of blind spots they might have, to increase their mental fitness through a program called Positive Intelligence, while at the same time putting a roadmap together of what is their next career step. Where do they want to go? What are their values? What is their purpose? How do they shed some of those limiting beliefs and actually get more centered holistically, and be more holistic? What ends up happening is they're focusing on their career, but their relationships in their life become better with their kids, with their wives, with themselves, with their partners becomes better. They get that promotion, they have a voice, they are not, they're interviewing better. They are negotiating for more money. They are more confident in what they're doing. And they're very clear on their purpose and having interest interviews to get to their next level and fast tracking their career, whether it be they've been laid off, they've worked for a toxic boss, they have decided to start their own business. That's what I do on the coaching side.
You mentioned positive intelligence. I love positive intelligence, which is something that you introduced me to. Talk about what is positive intelligence. Talk about saboteurs and sages and all the fun things that are part of positive intelligence.
Positive intelligence was started over 7 years ago by a Stanford professor named Shirzad Chamine. Shirzad took cognitive psychology, performance psychology, and there's another psychology out there. I just can't remember it. And it focuses on getting rid of those parts of your emotion and your negative emotions like overwhelm, stress, feeling undervalued, I'm not good enough, quieting those limiting beliefs through scientifically proven mindfulness and tools that rewire your brain. They basically change the neuro pathways and how they're synapsing, and they allow you to quiet your inner judge and those saboteurs to lean into your sage or your wisdom so that you can be curious, explore things differently, navigate things more differently, and have what they call these powers of inspiration, knowledge, and wisdom, but most importantly, self-empathy.
Yeah, so PQ reps. I went through positive intelligence with Shelley a couple years ago now. I don't remember. It was before we hiked the Camino. And the PQ reps, I still have the alarms in my phone to do my PQ reps from when I went through positive intelligence. I was the only one in my pod. I can't remember what happened, but it was just me. But the touch one is the one that stuck with me the most. And I'll find if I'm in a state of overwhelm, just even like rubbing two fingers together and doing those PQ reps or breath, of course. I'm a yogi too. So like box breath or something. And I think whether you're in a leadership program or anything, everybody should go through positive intelligence because it just helps us be more functional human beings in general.
Yeah, thanks. That box breathing that you're talking about is huge. And I started getting more into yoga. So I love that you do yoga. And that's what helps break up those negative thoughts, right? Is breath and holistic. That's why I always say that we are not transactional coaches or transactional type of talent advisors. We are holistic. We look at the whole business, we look at the person, and then we try to align the right, the right person with the right mental fitness, with the right jobs, and with a company that has the right values. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the past 5 years of having my own business, Jen, is people are messy and companies are messy, and people ultimately want to work in a culture that really aligns well with them, and they're not putting up with things they did before COVID. It's really an employee focused culture that people want. They want humanistic. They don't want to work just 9 to 5 anymore. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that you decided to go completely out on your own starting last Friday, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm on day two of it. I mean, as you know, I've been working my
Yeah,
business full time for
sure.
years, but then I also was working for the mortgage office 35, 40 hours a week on top of that. And the safety net was what kept me for a long time. That paycheck coming in,
Yeah.
it's a nice little safety net and health insurance. But now that I'm married, I am on my husband's health insurance. So that excuse, and it really was an excuse, kind of went away. And I don't even know what happened this summer. in June, I was like, you know what? It's just time. It's time. And you know me really well at this point. Once I get to that point, it takes me a little while to get to that point of being done. But once I decide
Yeah.
on something, there's no turning back. And the freedom piece though, and it's interesting because people do want that in the corporate setting too. They want the hybrid option or the work from home option, and employers have to adjust. They have to. What other big shifts have you seen since COVID in the workplace?
Um, Gosh, so many. That remote piece obviously is huge. The focus on mental well-being and true employee engagement and true servant and conscientious leadership of how do we be better leaders? How do we help our employees feel better? People aren't putting up with what they used to put up with. I will tell you, women don't want to be mansplained or you know, undervalued. People don't want to work with toxic bosses. I've personally seen so many people leave what's not acceptable any longer. Um, and I think like job shares, hiring older workers. Oh my gosh, huge. Hiring immigrants, hiring people without bachelor's degrees based on skills, leveraging different. Obviously, with AI coming out, there's lots of jobs that are going away that are now being created, and people's ability to learn as quickly as possible is there's been COVID burnout, then the great resignation burnout, there's been betrayal. Now we're on this, people need jobs and the job market it's taking longer for people to find work because it's what we call a plug and play market. I can find someone that has the exact skill set you would think, but it still is hard. So I jumped on a lot of different topics there. But what I think are the soft skills that I know you have shown, and I wrote down too, you people have to have a lot of grit and they have to be able to put up with the grind, that grit and grind of entrepreneurialism or of staying in a role because it's not as easy to find something. That resiliency is something that is not going away and that you have to have that true grit in order to do. Again, another long answer, but hopefully some nuggets in there for your listeners.
No, I love it. And the grit is interesting because there's been this shift. I started off in direct sales and it was all like hustle, hustle, hustle. That word became, the girl boss hustle, girl boss. And now that's kind of got some toxic leanings towards it. But I think there's a balance that like you do have to we call it's grit now, but it's hustle. It's, kind of one and the same. I think of grit as like you're digging down deep. Hustle is you're moving forward. So it's kind of a combination of both that you need. But at the same time, we still want that balance. We still want to be able to work remotely at least. I mean, I applied for a job that I interviewed with, and they're like, "Well, we're one day in the office right now, but we're going to three or four." And I was like, "I am not the right person for this position. Like, no, I'm not driving to Denver 3 or 4 days a week. That's just not happening." And even though it's harder to find a position, candidates are getting to be a little bit pickier too in what they'll accept in the workplace. Coming back to that toxic boss situation, I have a friend of mine speaks on positive leadership, like very much what you do and what she do coincide with each other.
Mm.
She's in California. I would love for you guys to meet. You'd get along really well. But we're just talking about like employees just aren't putting up with the shit anymore. They want to work in healthy environments. Um, where does your passion for this all come from? I know your corporate background, but like when entrepreneurship is hard, which is kind of the theme of this podcast, what keeps you going? What keeps you wanting to do what you do?
Yeah. So I love the freedom. I also love being able to really help people. When you get a phone call, let me give you an example. Not last week because I was on vacation, but the week prior, one of my clients flew out from Houston because her sister lives in Denver. And she saw my posts to Rocky Mountain National Park. And she said, I actually met her on a Wednesday morning, and she told me, I'm spending the rest of my day, I'm going up to RMMP because you inspired me to go to these lakes. The same week, I had someone who had gone through positive intelligence, and he's a CFO. And I said, what are the top 4 things that you've gotten out of coaching so far? And he went through, I have a better relationship. And he went through the top 3. And then he said, meeting you. And it really, things like that are what keep me going. The learning also, and being open to learn when there's certain points where you might not know the answer, but your clients expect you to know the answer. And asking for help has been a huge lesson for me, that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be courageously vulnerable, more with those that are in your inner circle than with clients. But that's part of that humanistic piece. So what keeps me going is I don't feel like I could be that humanistic and that vulnerable in corporate, that I have people around me that believe in me, and that I do have much more faith, spiritual faith, not religious faith, than fear.
Oh, I'm gonna try to not cry bringing this up, but I don't know if you'll even remember this, but when my cat Jack died, and he comes up on a lot of my podcast episodes. So this
Mhm.
was March of 23. And I
Mhm.
remember you and I had a call scheduled, and it was the week that he was really sick. And I remember saying to you, Shelly, I was like, I just got back from the vet from leaving him at the vet. I was like, I'm a total mess. I was like, can you give me an hour? Can we push our call back an hour? And I'll never forget, you text me back. First, all your text said was no. The first one just said no. And I was like, oh shit, she must be busy. And she goes, no, Jen, we're rescheduling for next week. Take care of yourself. And it meant the world to me. And I don't know that I ever told you that, because I was in such a spiral of grief after that. But it
Mhm.
was one of the pivotal moments that I was like, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be working with people who, when I'm trying to push myself too hard and I need to be a human, who say, no, go take care of yourself. Like, go be a human being, not just a machine. I had a client 2 weeks ago. We had a late call on a Thursday, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get the kiddo to bed and then I'll start working on this. And she goes, Jen, I don't expect you to be instant oatmeal. This can wait till next week. And it was
Oh, I
just
love that.
so right. I keep quoting her on that, because it was just, I laughed, because I'm like, yeah, like, we get to pick who we work with. We get to pick who's in our circle.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
have another one for you.
I'm ready.
You don't need to be top ramen. You just need to be top Jen.
Oh, I love it.
Instant
I'm
ramen.
I love
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna have Yvette create me a graphic of that. Um, but entrepreneurship is hard, but we get to pick amazing people to be in our circle too. Clients, circle of support, whatever it is. You mentioned coaching earlier. I think everyone should have a coach. I think we all need coaches of some sort. Um, we both met through Cami, who's a wonderful coach here in town. My coach is a nomad. I think she's in Germany right now. I don't even know. She travels the world. But we need people who help us level up when we want to. Let's talk about your team though, because when you and I met, when we started working together, you were at that point it was BYCA, and that has changed since we started working together again. What does your team look like?
So I have you as my social media manager. I have Yvette Bell as my director of operations, and Yvette does all my websites, all my branding, all my event management. She is, as you know, the bomb, as you are too. And then I have 2 recruiters. One is Nikki Cutler. Nikki is a past professional athlete. She is amazing at white glove service, client relationships, and that grit and grind. Let me tell you, being a past golfer, she's going to get that hole in one every single time to find the right person. I am so blessed. And then I brought on Anna Peters in March, and Anna has a background being the head of talent management she was a talent acquisition manager, excuse me, at Ping Identity at Uplight. And one of my past clients actually recommended her. She's just like this light of energy, and has been helping us source and find awesome talent for 3 of our clients so far. So that's my team.
Very cool. And that's, I mean, that's a stretch too, like bringing people onto your team, when your business is your baby. The next thing for me is hiring an assistant, and that sounds terrifying. Like it's time. I'm also in year 5 of my business, so um we'll see. We'll see when it finally happens. But I know
You will.
something we're bringing. I know it'll maybe by the time this episode is live, I'll have hired an
Be.
assistant.
Could be.
Maybe. Something we've been talking about a lot lately that will be in your upcoming social media post too. This will be out after that fact, but is putting woo back into work, putting more woo into work. What does that mean? Because I think it's such a cool concept.
So when I was hiking at Rocky Mountain National Park in Estes, I just kept getting this message of people need more celebration. They need more joy. They need more woo woo, which means spirituality and healing and centeredness and mysticism and whatever woo might mean. So I came back and I decided this is going to be like a theme as we build our framework. It's how do you celebrate more? How do you not say, what did I do wrong? What did you do right? And how can you celebrate what you did right? How can you leverage positive intelligence in your workplace? How can you use conscious and purposeful leadership? So it means a lot of things, Jen. It's an idea that's percolating that will be
Yeah,
coming into a framework soon.
I love that. You also, when we first started working together, I remember you saying it is possible to actually love your job. And that's something that stuck with me too, is especially people think of, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you might think like corporate 9 to 5, gross, which I could not work 9 to 5 corporate anymore either. But like you help people find people that want to be part of their organizations, and you help individuals actually love what they do again. And I think that's really powerful, especially in the shifting job force. Like that's a big deal to actually wake up and want to do what you're doing Monday through Friday.
Mhm. That's part of more woo in your work. It is possible to love what you do, but you've got to go through a lot because there's corporate trauma syndrome, there's toxicity, there's all this betrayal that happens. And it's breaking all of that out and knowing who you truly are. Yeah, I'm actually appreciative that you brought that up because as entrepreneurs, we need to get through, the hustle, the grind, um, and know that loving what we do is what pays our bills.
Right? Yeah, there's that quote that's like, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And I think that's bullshit. Like you still work, but it's just a happier, you feel better at the end of your work day, and you don't dread doing the to-do list or whatever you have going on. But we are lucky
Yeah.
to get to make
So I
it.
have a vision board and it says, I get paid for being me.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Think about that. I get paid for being me. Maybe we should do a social post on that.
Yeah. No,
Right?
I
I get
really
paid for
like that.
being me. I get
Yeah.
paid for being my authentic self, for um, showing up and being vulnerable or rumbling and, being good enough to be who I am. And we're going to have to do something with that. That's pretty
Mm,
good.
I like it. What about outside of work, outside of your business? Tell us about Shelly beyond BYTA.
I love dancing. I love doing Zumba, as you know. I recently got into pickleball and I play probably once or twice a week. I'm into yoga. I have 2 kids that are super fun, 2 girls. They're great. I love nutrition. I like holistic, uh, functional nutrition. I live in Highlands Ranch and I have 2 cats and my husband, and I've been married for 23 years, believe it or not. That's me outside of work.
It's amazing. I think we have to go back to the Camino for a minute. I obviously it was the three of us. It was the two of us and Yvette. And what's
Right.
funny, the first day I remember Yvette and I sat
Oh
down because
man,
she was not feeling well. She got food
she was
poisoning.
not feeling.
And I remember this was the bonding moment. And Yvette and I looked at each other, and I look at her, I go, this kind of sucks. And we both started dying laughing. And it's even funnier now because I don't remember that I remember it sucked, but that's not what I remember about those 2 weeks. I mean, my trip started off that I got stuck in Newark overnight. I missed a whole day with you guys, in Portugal. Yes, we flew in
Portugal,
and around.
Porto.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I missed the whole day in Porto because I got stuck in Newark, New Jersey, which is not where I wanted to be. And then Yvette got food poisoning, and that it was just like so many little trials over the course of those 2 weeks together, and none of the 3 of us had spent more than I don't know how much time you and Yvette had actually
Maybe
spent
like an
in
hour or
person.
2, maybe like a couple hours. Like, we just
Ah,
threw the dice and did it, and sometimes we all drove each other nuts, and I mommed you both too much, but you forgave me, I forgave myself, and we moved on.
I was just remembering, and then the first night, remember, our luggage didn't get moved to the first place we were
Mhm.
staying, but it was beautiful, right? Like, it was such a beautiful experience between the 3 of us. It's something that nobody else will ever fully understand because they weren't there, they weren't part of it. And yeah, we literally saw each other at our best and at our absolute, like, pissed off, sore, miserable selves. And but what made you want to plan that trip to begin with? You had done the Camino before. Yeah, a Camino before, yes?
I had done El Camino or a Camino before from Spain over. I wanted to do that trip because I wanted other people to have their own journey. And plus, I love just speaking Spanish, and I had never been to Portugal. I shouldn't say that. I had never been to Porto. I had been to Lisbon and Faro and like all of South Portugal, but I really wanted to do from the seaside. And I thought, why not try a retreat? And so you and Yvette signed up, and I'm like, okay, this is my Camino too. And sometimes part of my own, we each had our own journey. We each had our own things that we wanted to get over or go through. And I mean, Yvette was so sick that first day. And it's interesting what we remember from that time. But like you and I sat out in the vineyard, and maybe I had too much wine.
I remember the vineyard was so pretty. It was so pretty
It
that
was
first day.
beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And just experiences. But that day, just like Brene Brown says, you got to embrace the suck because that day did suck.
Yeah. And then I remember you were walking just ahead of me on the beach the day that we were actually on the beach
Mhm.
before the incline. And
Yep.
I found out that my family dog had passed away. And I
Mhm.
remember I just sat in the sand, and there's no better place I think I could have been to get that news. And it was raining. We were soaked, but it was I didn't wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else. Like, it was this beautiful, it let me let go of it, it let me move on. And then, you and I were hiking up the part that was like this the whole way. And I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember this. This was the spiritual part of the route. I don't think I've ever cussed so much in my life. I was like, yes, I'm spiritually cussing this trail. I was yelling at myself because my feet hurt so bad. And this guy in like dress pants and a button down with his Bible in his hand walked right by both of us, and we never saw him again. And he acted like he was out for like his daily walk. And I just remember watching him and being like, I don't understand. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I don't understand.
I don't remember that part, but I do remember lots of pictures of cats. And I do remember in that seaside town that we found out that they loved witches and like La Bruja Blanca, like the White Witch. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. So we actually spent more time there when we came back.
Yeah, I have a necklace that's a witch from there that I just was looking at the other day, actually.
Oh,
Um,
man, we've gone all different,
I
like
know,
all different routes.
I know. But anyone listening, if you ever have a chance to do a Camino, I strongly, strongly suggest it. I signed up on a whim. I remember I had just started working with you and Yvette, and you were saying how you were doing the Camino. And I was like, I don't know, really know what the hell this is, but I'm gonna do it too. And it really was the
Yeah,
beginning
you
of
had
my
so
whole
many
life
reasons that
changing.
you had to do it because you had a lot to shed.
Yeah.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knew 2 years later that you and I would be talking on a podcast about
Right.
all these things, and you would be into 100% entrepreneurialism, and I'm talking about grit and grind. I mean, talk about grit and grind. The Camino will definitely bring it out. I am thinking about taking another group maybe next year to a whole different section that's supposed to be beautiful. We'll
All
see.
right. All right. I'm probably in, let's be real.
Oh, good.
Um, so I think Shelley, what's so beautiful about you is you invite people to level up in their lives however they want to. Like you and I from the very first time we met, like you just present such a community that just you can do whatever you want to do. It's not pushing people in one direction or another, but you just invite them to level up however they want to. And I think that's really cool. So, anything else that you would
Thank
like to
you,
share about
Jen.
your
I think I
business?
needed to hear that. No, I just this is the first podcast I've been on in a while, and it was like so easy and fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And I will do all the links for where you guys can find Shelly from LinkedIn to her website, which Yvette did a stellar job on Instagram. So be sure to go follow her. And for everyone else, if you want to connect with me, my name is Jen Waybor Hart, and I'm a creative strategist. I help business owners take their big ideas and turn them into actionable tasks. You can connect with me on Instagram at LifeJensWay or email me at jen@jensway.com. Thank you, Shelly, so much. I appreciate you. And to everybody else, I will talk to you next time on Your Next Business Bestie. Have a great day.
Sure.